Hi everyone, it's Carol here at Oak House Journals, and as always a very big warm welcome from me. Thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. As you can see, I've got a guest check on my desk, so that can only mean that I'm going in with my next prompt in the 50 stack challenge. And as I'm always saying, if the challenge is new to you or you want to find out more information, please look in the description box below the video. As you can see, I've got an array of stuff on my desk. The prompt that Amy set us for this guest check, number 28, was paper strips. What have I got here? Well, as you can see, I've got some Distress Oxide spray in speckled egg, my all-time favourite colour that Ranger brought out in this range. I've got some Distress Oxide, and this is the ink, as you can see, and this one's bundled sage. So you know already I'm going on a very soft pastel-y blue-green theme, aren't I, without even seeing the rest of what I've got here. I've got some Altenew fine frame circle dies. All the information will be in the description box below the video, so don't bother jotting everything down. Relax, watch the video, get a cup of coffee or cup of tea, and then just check out the description box afterwards. I've got a couple of scraps of fabric here. Not sure if I'm going to be using these yet, but I've got them out. I've got some gorgeous scraps of wrapping paper here, white on one side, as you can see they've been used, and obviously blue and white and green and white. I've got this 30 GSM pearlescent cardstock. It's white on one side, as you can see, and then this baby blue colour on the other side. And as I say, it's a pearlescent, nice heavyweight cardstock because I want something fairly solid when I cut out my dies. So I'm going to be using this for cutting out my circles. And then before I switched on the camera, I had a bit of a play with the Distress Oxide, bundled sage and speckled egg, and just used normal lightweight cardstock. Nothing special about this. I would send this through the printer. It's I would say about 100, maybe 120 GSM, just normal paper. And I've come up with 3 backgrounds. This one's a little bit darker. This was the first one I tried out, working with the green first and then going over the top with the spray. Then I tried this one next, where I went in using the spray first and then picked up the green ink. And I like both of those. As I say, this one's a little bit denser than this one, but both of those are nice. And then this one, I just sprayed with water first and then put the Distress Oxide sprayed over the top, and I got this lovely effect, really like this. And then I just dabbed it with some green afterwards. So I'm going to be using this. I'm not sure which one yet. I'm tempted to go with this one. I'm going to rip up some strips to create a background to go on my guest check. Not bothered about having a white edge because that white edge is going to be covered up, as you can see. But I don't want my strips to be too wide if I can help it, for the simple reason that I want to get a few on here to actually create the background. So I'm going to put them down my page like so. And then this one is going to go in there like that. Just going to weight those down. So I've got my mouse stand, so I'm just going to put that on there. Right, I've got some scraps of washi, so I'm just going to put that across the top of my pieces just to hold them together. There we go. So I've got my strips all secure, and I know that they are wider than my guest check. If I just flip it over, you can see that it's the strip that I've got is slightly wider. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to take this to my sewing machine and just stitch down these lines here. So those are my strips all stitched together, and now I want to just trim it to size so that it fits the guest check. So there we go, that's my background all stitched and almost ready to go. I'm going to just run it round my sewing machine again so that I've got stitching all the way round the outside, and then I'm going to glue this onto my my guest check. So this is what my background looks like now that I've stitched all the way round, and that's the back of the guest check. So really love this look, and because I had the rest of the A4 sheet left over, I went a bit mad and I made some tags. So with this one I just ripped my pieces, and more or less as I ripped them, use them in that order to create my background on my guest check. With this one I just did random strips and ripped them and mixed and matched them onto a tag. Same thing again, stitched with a zigzag stitch down each of the strips, and then with just a couple of rows of straight stitching all the way around the outside of my tag. And that's the back, and that's the same colour card as I showed right at the start of the video, and just a slot at the top there. This one's slightly different. I mixed it in with a bit of vintage document, handwritten vintage document. I didn't zigzag over the joins, I just glued this to the back, or glued this to the tag rather, and did a straight stitch all the way around the outside, slot punched at the top there, and again same cardstock. And this one again slightly different, used the vintage document, did the zigzag down the join, but this time I left the white torn edge showing because I really like that look actually. So on this piece I have the torn edge underneath out of sight, and on this edge here, this is the white edge of the core of the dyed cardstock. So really like that look again, and again stitch around the outside, just plain single stitching or single lines of stitching on the sewing machine, and then a memory keeper's eyelet at the top, and that's the back. So that's my A4, one of my A4 sheets used up. I still have the other two off to one side here for other projects. So anyway, let's get back to the guest check, but I have to say, love this idea. So I've got 3 tags there, base tags ready to decorate for another time. Okay, back to the guest check. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of this baby blue and cut out a load of circles. I'm probably only going to use the smaller ones because I don't have much in the way of scrap paper unless I resort to using the fabric I showed you earlier, and I'm not sure about that for this particular idea that I've got. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to die cut my circles, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've got several sets of circles cut out, and they just need separating now. That one doesn't want to separate that easily. As you can see, this one's just going to come apart a lot easier. As I say, I'm not going to use the big ones or the larger circles. I just want the smaller ones, because these are going to be too big for on here if I want to put several on here, which is what I want to do. You might be asking why I've die cut so many. Well, I think that even though these are cut out in 300 GSM cardstock, they are going to want to be doubled up. So I'm thinking, and this is where my tweezers are going to come in really handy, that I'm thinking of actually gluing the back and gluing on another circle that is the same size, which will make this a little bit more rigid, which is what I want. So I'm very quickly going to start gluing my pieces together. So I've got my 5 rings here. These 2 are slightly bigger than these 3, and I've doubled everything up, so I've got 2 layers here, and they're pretty sturdy now. So these are all spare, but I'm sure they're going to come in for another project. They are so delicate and gorgeous. I will definitely be using them. I'm going to hang on to these little circles here because I might use those still. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use these circles to trace round and cut myself some of this spare or this scrap paper here so that I've got infills for the circles. So you probably can see where I'm going with all of this. So very carefully, what I'm going to do is just pick an area like, oh, I might go for one. Actually, I'm going to go for that one with the flower already cut out of that one. I wasn't planning to do that, but I think that's nice, so I'm going to go for that. What I'm wondering and why I'm hesitating is I'm wondering if it would be easier to actually glue it in place and then try cutting it out next to the frame, and actually I think that would be better, so I'm going to go and do that. There we go. And I've still got a little bit of this paper left, which is fantastic because I love both of these pieces. I've punched out an array of little tiny flowers, all different sizes, that I think I will use to embellish my pieces. And these are not stuck down yet, as you can see, because I thought I'd go in and use some thread as well and do a little bit of embroidery, only something maybe like French knots or even the loose French knots, something like that. Not on my background piece. I'm just going to confine my embellishment to the circles and have it as a fairly simple abstract piece. Okay, so I've made myself a little pom-pom. This one, again, another pom-pom. All I've done is I've just glued it into the centre of one of these flowers, and I'm going to do the same with that one. What I think I'll do as well is I will take another one of the flowers and just flip it over so that you get the white side showing, and then that one can sit inside, and it actually helps to make it stand out a little bit. As you can see, some of these are a little bit curled, and all I've done with these is take one of the flowers, put it in the center of my hand, and just use the ball end of this tool here and just rolled it around inside my hand. And as you do that, it forms a little cup, and you can open it up or close it out as much as you want. So I think I probably will do something like that on here, and then maybe back it with one of the spiky ones, I don't know. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do with these little pom-poms that I've made. So I'm just going to glue this one onto a flower. And I'm just going to leave that to sit for a second or two. I'm probably going to have it down there so that I've got the two pom-poms, top and bottom. I started to work on these little tiny ones here, and I did a little French knot in the center of this one, working in green thread, and I've put a dab of glue behind it just so that it will, whoops a daisy, it's very delicate, just so that it will hold the knot in place. And what I'm going to do, or hold the thread in place, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip away the knot in a moment or two. So I'm just leaving that one to dry. Let me show you how I've done that. I've just got a couple of needles here threaded up, again in green and blue thread, keeping it all very, very simple in terms of the colour palette. These are really tiny, so I wanted to go in and do messy French knots. I need a soft surface to actually just skewer the center of my flower. There we go. So I've skewered it in the center with my needle. I've got a quilter's knot on the end here just to help me, and I'm going in from the reverse. Now these are very, very fiddly, so I hope you're going to be able to see what I'm trying to do. So I'm just going to trap this between my back fingers. I'm not going to take that quilter's knot up to the back of my flower, and the reason for that is because I need a bit of attention on here to actually do my wraps on my needle. So I'm actually doing 4 wraps, and then I'm going back down the same hole. Now ideally, if I had more space, then I wouldn't go back down the same hole. I would go down slightly to one side just to give me more room, but this is so tiny, it's not allowing me to do that. So I'm just gone through to the other side And there's, I hope you can see that, there's my tiny, tiny little French knot. So before I do anything else, I'm just going to flip it over, put a dab of glue on the back where those threads are, and then snip them off, leaving about an inch, and then I'm just going to drop it down. I'm going to put it down on my desk and let that one dry like this one, and then I'm going on to the next one. Now you might be thinking, why have you put the quilter's knot in the end, Carol, if you're not going to actually use it to secure your thread? It just means that I can feel where the end of the thread is as I'm holding it, and it stops it slipping through my fingers. Now these are going to be glued onto here, so I'm not bothered that there's no knot or anything there, because it'll be a double jeopardy with all the glue that's going to be on these. So I'm just going to carry on. I've got another, well, I've certainly got another one. I'm not so sure about using this one, but we'll see. This one got a little bit scrunched in the punch, but we'll see how I get on with that. So I'm going to do another 2, and then I'm going to think about using these little tiny ones here for some embellishments as well. So I'll be back when those are done. So there we go, everybody. That's my finished piece for this prompt, which was strips of paper. As you can see, I've used them on my background. Really love this effect. Absolutely love it. Love the stitching. And yeah, I suppose this is a little bit abstract, but I quite like it. And I had a lovely time playing with this one. A little bit fiddly doing the knots inside my flowers. Probably wouldn't ever do that again, but it was fun trying it, and I hope you liked it. So there we go, everybody, and as always I'll do some photographs at the end so that you can have a closer look at how this one has turned out. I look forward to the next 2 prompts, 29 and 30, that Amy will have for us next week. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. Bye bye from me.